I was depressed a bit, and I got drug off to a music festival in the desert in New Mexico, Tico Time festival called Unison, and a bunch of crazy hippie girls from like Arizona, New Mexico mostly, and it was great. I needed it. I was relieved. I went out there. I didn't know what festival I was going to. A friend of mine drove me out there. And the same friend, she had a whole car full of items to party with, you know, different drugs and stuff. And I had brought a bunch of shit. You know, I've always had weed and whatever. And so we got to the festival and I started tripping on acid. I ate a few hits of acid, ate some mushrooms. This was like 4 o'clock. And my goal was to go trade a 10 strip of acid to go get into the festival. And I was like, I need to be on acid to trade acid. That's a philosophy of mine. And it works, and so I go find a guy in the parking lot, a good friend of mine, and I'm like, hey man, here's a 10 string. He's like, here you go, here's your wristband. So now I'm in the festival. Meanwhile, my friends have paid like, I think $400 for the weekend. And I paid a 10 strip of LSD, which is about $10 to me. And so we're in the festival, and I'm partying, having a great time. When my friend comes up on me, and I'm sitting in a chair in just the middle of a parking lot, like by myself. Looks like I worked there maybe or something, but I'd been walking across the parking lot and everything hit me hard. I'm frying, and it was like a chair in the middle of the parking lot for some reason, so I just sat in it. So I'm like in the middle of this giant parking lot before you even get into the festival, and everybody's walking in around me, and it's like the first day of the festival, so I'm just like, oh man, I'm just giggling and laughing, and so my friend comes over to me and she's laughing, and she's like, here, she's like, take this. She's like, it's some more mushrooms, and it's 2 capsules that have the 2 small gel tabs or gel capsules, and they're not small, they're like the bigger gel capsules, but they're green, so I can't see inside of them. But I trust her, so I take them, and it's probably about 6 o'clock in the evening, 7 o'clock in the evening, and I'm already tripping pretty hard. I'm coming up on shrooms and acid, and I'm already gonna have a great night, you know. But I don't do any other substances. I'm not on any prescriptions, and so something starts to get really intense, and I notice it. I'm like, holy shit, you know, this is not a freaking. I've been on a lot of acid trips, and acid can get wild. So I'm starting to think like somebody. I start thinking someone dosed me with like hundreds of hits of acid is what I'm thinking. I'm like, people have, you know, my friends. I got goofball friends, and this could happen. You know, I'm like, where did someone hit me? Because I feel like I'm on just an excessive amount of acid is what it feels like. I'm like just floating out of my body, and like intermediate flashes of light, and I'm transported to another spot, and like I'm just ultra coordinated, and everything's crisp and clean. The whole world's amazing, you know. And so I'm at the like I don't want to say a taco stand, but it's a food stand there. They're serving like, I think they're serving like a bunch of organic, like farm to table shit. And anyway, so I'm standing in line. I don't remember if I got food at the place, but I just stand in line. These 2 girls walked up, and they're both really pretty, but one of them, she got blonde hair. She kind of looks like Michelle Pfeiffer from the 90s. Really beautiful girl. She had a really beautiful smile, and we just like I was talking to her friend, but me and her kept like smiling, and like we kept like connecting visually. And went on for about 10 minutes, and I just kind of like fell in love with her. And the reason I fell in love with her is I'm coming up really hard on these drugs, and I kind of know this, you know, I've done a lot of psychedelics, so I'm not like entirely tricked by all these feelings, you know. I kind of know a lot about what's going on and what's occurring, and so I drift off from the conversation. You know, I feel like I play it pretty cool. Within about 30, 40 minutes later, I'm walking around and I start panicking, because this is by the time it's, I don't know, it's probably like 8, 9 o'clock, sun's going down, it's starting to get cold. We're in the desert, it's cold real fast. I got no shirt on, I'm running around. I need to go to the car to get clothes, but the car we rode in, I drove us there. I had the key to the car, but for some reason in my trip, I'm thinking that she has the key to the car. So I get to the car and can't unlock it, and the key's in my freaking pocket. But I'm like thinking like, her name is Chris. I'm like, Chris, you fucking idiot! Like you like left me locked out of the car, and now I'm cold. And I'm like mad at her. I'm like, oh, and I'm like, so I run off, and as I'm running over to the, I just start panicking. I'm freaking out. And I can feel this building urge of like, it's something different, you know. It's like I'm in pain, like emotionally, and I'm like, oh, this is not okay. And I'm thinking it's just because I'm having a panic attack on a high dose of acid, because I'm psyching myself out and thinking I'm gonna die or something, you know, that, you know, like I'm gonna get cold. And so I'm like trying to reprogram my brain out of this, and I eventually go over to the front, and I've never done this at a festival. I go over and ask for help. I asked the guy, I said, please help me. And he said, you need to go to the hospital? I said, no. I said, I'm on a bunch of acid, and I'm losing my shit. I'm stuck in a thought loop. I think I'm gonna die because it's cold. I said, tell me it's not too cold to kill me. Take me somewhere, help me. And so they transport me to a tent that's made for people that have overdosed on things and, you know, need help, and it's like some charity program. And it's a beautiful tent full of like all kinds of animal skins, and it's like super fancy. I mean, they're like $100,000 worth of animal skins in this thing, like real bear fur and shit. So I go and just lay down this pile of animal skins. There's a beautiful fucking girl in there, you know, and she's like all sweet, and she's like, okay, I heard you maybe took too much, and like she's real nice, and she's there to hang out with me. So I went through the whole experience while this was happening. And I continually would, what would happen was about 30 minutes into it, it started happening in cycles. And it probably happened about a dozen times before the cycles faded and I actually lived. Obviously I lived, but these cycles faded and faded. And, the cycle would be very simple, that I would start to encounter my vision would be flashing in and out and being like a whiteout rather than a blackout. I'm getting my heart rate's flashing. What's happening is the heart rate's pumping. It's probably changing my eye pressure and giving me like visuals through that sort of mechanism. And so I'm getting this crazy flashes of white, and I can feel my heart rate going. I'm still counting. I have a very lucid and aware state of mind. It's almost like a lucid dream is occurring, and my heart will just start to skyrocket. And it's probably getting to 200 beats per BPM or something, you know. And I'm freaking out, and in this, what'll happen is the white flashes will just turn into a continuous white flash. And in the white flash, this girl that I was talking to, she's the last thing there at the whole end of it. I'm about to die, and my brain is sort of narrating to myself too, like, you have the option to die. Your heart's going to explode. You're at 200 beats PM. You're at 210. You're at 220. You're going to die, and you can. And I know medicine very well, but I'm telling myself that this is not possible because I'm on acid, and I've taken like 2,000 hits of acid at once before. I've bitten into a crystal of it. So I'm like, this is not like, and I know I didn't bite into a crystal. I'm like, so even if someone did puddle me out, like, they only could have given me a certain amount. Like, this is just not possible. My brain and my reasoning is just stuck in that place, and it keeps pulling me back out of it. But right before I pull out of it, like, I end up at this girl's, like, at her feet, basically. And she's, like, in these white, beautiful robes, and she's glowing, and she's just, like, this magical creature. And so this happens, and then I'll tell myself that I want to live, basically, in this space, because I'm, like, seeing this beautiful creature. I'm like, I want to live, you know, if not for her, for anything. And then I'll come out of it, and I'm laying back in the tent, and I'll come out in actual reality, and I'm looking over, and usually they keep changing people. It's on for like 4 hours, so like every 30 minutes a new person's coming in. So a lot of times I go through this whiteout and come back, and I'm panting, and I look up, and there's a new person sitting in front of me in the tent. And so then I start telling them shit about my life and explaining stuff, and everyone that came in is like, we need to take you to the hospital, and I'm just like, I had to tell that no to everyone. So eventually I come in and out of these things, and a friend of mine brings me a beer at one point. The same friend gave me those pills. I drink the beer, I chill out, and I don't go back into another one of these white flashes. And I actually had a magical, euphoric, glowing feeling, just like beyond description. And I didn't know what it was from. And so the next day I woke up and I took a bunch of acid the next morning. I felt a little bit embarrassed because I'd been over the tent. I wanted to talk to those people and make sure I didn't make a fool of myself or nothing. But then I wandered around, and in my head I kept thinking, like, this girl may not even be real, but I walked around and I found the freaking girl. She was working at a food stand. She's standing there behind the counter, still beautiful as can be, you know. And I'm just like, I found her, and I'm like, after going through that, I didn't know how to describe to her like what had happened. I'm like, you were there, but like I can't talk to you as if like me and you were there, you know. And I'm like, this girl's freaking hot too, and I'm like, I want to get with her. So I'm like, I don't want to be like this weirdo that comes up like, let me tell you about the spiritual experience me and you had. Like, she'll think I'm full of shit. Like, she'll think that it didn't actually happen. That's what I'm worried about, because I'm like, I know this fucking happened, you know, and like it was whatever it was. But so I just sort of interacted with her in like a very surface kind of way. We'd smile, laugh, and talk to each other. I cooked her a bunch of food. I took over like the employee food area because the employees that were there were fighting. There were people that were supposed to cook food for the employees at the festival, so I took over cooking for the employees, started a little kitchen, and cooked for a bunch of people. And I brought her beautiful gourmet food every day. It was almost like I was like a man gathering the finest stuff from the forest and bringing it to his princess. And I did that for like a week, and we talked and hung out and got really connected. And her name was Melanie. But then she told me I could call her Melody. She said a lot of people call her Melody. And so like as a musician, I've been married before to an actual woman for several years, and it really was traumatic. And so as a musician, I am really clinging to things a lot of times in life as an artist, you know, things like as a muse, basically. I know what a muse is, I always have. So it was like, I sort of immediately clicked on this, and I'm like, this could be reality. I could go chase her down, and we could be together. I'm pretty sure I could get a hold of her. We already were hanging out for a while, smiling and giggling and holding hands. Like, it's not a hard step to think that, yeah, I could be with this girl. But I just stopped at that point. I was like, you know what? I need inspiration. I need something to keep me out of the mud. And it has to be something almost, it's like mythical. It has to be a muse. Like, I can't rely on a real person. They've all let me down. And so it was like, I just left it at that. I was like, you know what? I didn't even get her number. I left, and she gave me her number, and I intentionally didn't give her my number, and then I threw her number away. And so it was like, that was like a real big decision for me. I had avenues to get to her too. I knew other friends that knew her, and I could have easily found out who this girl is, and I just didn't. I just chose to stay away from it. And since then, she's become a character named Melody in my songs, and it's really wild because like melody just like, that's what you're doing when you make music. You're making a melody, so it's like it just fits so perfect. Like people have no clue if I'm singing about her or whether it's melody itself, like which I'm probably just as much in love with, like it's all the same.
Why did you throw away her number?
Because I just wanted to be stuck in the same moment with her for a really long time, and I have been. God, man, it's like my life immediately changed from then on. I was always pretty happy and pretty willing to overcome things, and I've done all these adventures and work on myself before that, but that was like a huge step in like overcoming just so much in life, man. I don't know why or how I can explain that. Like doing drugs in the desert is like an accomplishment, but I've been through a lot of things and I've accomplished a lot, I don't even want to sit here and talk about any of the stuff I've done, really. I've been taking first place in a lot of things in life, and that feels kind of like one of the biggest things for me was to find out how to be happy without. I think what a lot was my entire life. I thought a woman was essential to my happiness. I didn't necessarily think she was the entire equation, but I thought she was part of it, and that was the moment I think where it broke. And I was like, I'm not gay now. I'm not, I'm not going to change the way I think about women, but now I'm not beholden to have to have this girl, or I'm not, I can let my final picture play out now without a wife in it or something, and it's, who knows if there will be, I don't know. I mean, like freaking universe might send me some crazy thing, and I don't know. I've still dated a few girls and here and there, but it's like this sort of contentment that like, okay, I found the one, and she's inside my head. It's like a selfish notion, it's like it's a guy playing guitar sort of philosophy. It's like, you are more important as fodder for my albums, and you can be the woman that competes with all the women I meet in real life till the end of time, and they can't beat you because you're imaginary. Like, of course, like you have all the best tools. Like you're hotter than every woman that's ever existed. You're smarter. So it's like it boosted my confidence with that, and so much. Like I don't think I was like super embarrassed about girls maybe, but I definitely wasn't like trying to test my limits with women. I was like, okay, I'll take what I can get. Any pretty girl that smiles at me, I gotta take her because that's all I can get. And then after that I was like, wow, like I deserve a princess, and most of these women that I encounter nowadays, I don't look down on them, but I don't have a desire to be with them in any shape, way, or form, because it's like, well, you're just way below the benchmark I have, like way below. And she's an imaginary woman, so I don't encourage you to compete, really. Like, I don't know who's going to hit the benchmark, but you can't win against her. It's her playing field. So, like, she's my muse, and that's all she's going to be, probably. But I don't think I finished the story there, and that what was actually occurring was I had been given 2 capsules of the 2 capsules I thought were psilocybin mushrooms of a half gram apiece. I thought I took a gram of mushrooms, when in reality these 2 capsules, each one of them had around 500 milligrams of MDA, SAS, which is stronger than MDMA, more neurotoxic in a lot of ways, more psychedelic, more pathogenic, I think. So probably that accounted for the massive amount of love that I was able to feel. So it was the most loving experience. It was like all the love I've ever wanted to feel in my entire life. You can't add to it. Like, there's nothing. No fucking human, no experience, like nothing will ever add to that. Like, it was it. And it was a deadly dose. I mean, 1,000 milligrams of MDA unknowingly, while on around 6 hits of acid and 3 or 4 grams of shrooms maybe. So already in a huge psychedelic experience while taking that dose and not being prepared, not knowing that I was going to do that. Like, I could have died in the desert pretty easily, And I think I had a near-death experience that could have caused some myocardial things, or like there could be some crazy internal damage that I just haven't felt yet from it. I don't know. Sometimes I suspect that. The dose was, I'm 135 pounds usually, so to take 1,000 milligrams of MDA, that's in one single dose, one single, all simultaneously. That's it's almost like a suicide dose. You know, like nobody would do that intentionally. It's people don't know really the effects of those doses, but it's definitely known that it's not good.
What did the girl say that drugs?
She eventually found out because she was looking for her MDA. She knew she had it, and then it clicked, and she was like, "Oh shit!" It was like 2 days later. She came and told me. She said, "Hey, so those pills, you know." And, I stopped hanging out with her after that because it's not like I didn't trust her. Like I knew she wasn't trying to hurt me. I mean, she wanted to kill me. There'd probably be a much better way to do it. But it was just so. It was revealing of a lot of things I was doing in life that were irresponsible. It's like, yeah, my friends could kill me with negligence. You know, I don't need to just trust. Past that point, I started really cooking for myself and paying attention to the world around me. It made me more paranoid in a certain way. You know, like. There was some, I think, a traumatic effect maybe from it in that sense of like, oh shit, you know, I don't trust drugs at festivals as much now. And, but, I mean, it was a healthy fear that I needed to have had to begin with, and especially with my chemical knowledge, my chemistry knowledge, and all of the things that I know from that angle. I should have some pretty like a really high level of discretion. So yeah, it's taught me a lot. If I'd have known that I was on MDA, even if I'd have known I was on like over 400 milligrams, I think in my mind that's kind of the number. Because, you know, I know pharmacology, I'm doing the math of my body weight. If I had to tell someone else, you know, hey, they were like, hey man, what would be the max I could fucking take without needing to go to the hospital and almost die, you know, or get my stomach pumped? And I'd say, you ain't gonna survive more than 400, you know, that's what I would have said to myself. I would have said, you're not gonna make it past 400 milligrams, period. Like, you're just gonna die past that.
Why did she have 500 milligram cups?
Just bringing them from somewhere where it's not legal, you know, so she was hiding them, just to hide her stash, and use it later. She wasn't planning on eating a 500 milligram capsule. She's not that crazy. She was going to pour it out and crush it up and snort it or do whatever, you know. It was just a same way I accidentally ate 2,500 hits of acid. I wasn't trying to do that either. I bit into a gummy that had a gram of crystal LSD stuck in the middle of it, wedged inside of a big old gummy bear. And it was on my friend's table, and he was hiding the LSD inside of that gummy, you know, because I think he was taking that chunk of gummy and dissolving it into a bigger batch to make like 10,000 gummies, you know, out of a gram. And so I just picked it up. I was eating acid off his table. I'd eaten 4 or 5 hits of these. Each gummy had 1 hit on it. And I bit into this big gummy sitting there in the middle of the table, and I just picked it up. When I bit into it, it crunched. It felt like electricity. You can't taste LSD unless you eat, I'd say over 100 hits at once probably. It takes a lot. I mean, you can look it up on a chemical scale, what it takes to trigger taste buds. It does have a taste, but you don't taste it until you've eaten a lot at once. And I knew something was different because I was like, I've never tasted this taste, but I'm pretty sure this is acid on his table. And it was just like the connection in my mind. I asked him, I said, hey man, what's in this, what's the crunchy thing in this gummy? And he walked out and he was like, oh, that's the special gummy. And he was like, you need to call an Uber and leave right now. I lived like 10 miles from that dude's house, and I didn't even make it home. I rode an Uber and jumped out 2 miles from the house and sprinted down the side of the road till I got to my house. Everybody's face was morphing, and I had fisheye goggles, and I collapsed on the floor of my house and peed all over myself multiple times and laughed hysterically, climbed on the roof of my house naked. And my wife at the time had to keep pulling me down, stop me from showing my dick to the neighbors, you know, like just all this. I was seeing like CIA satellites in the sky, communicating with them, and it's a whole level of delusion that it's comical to look back on, but very traumatizing at the time. Like it was, would not recommend taking that dose.
How long did it last?
The bulk of the effects were only about 24 hours. I would really say the bulk maybe was even like 18 or 12 to 18 hours. I came down, but when I came down, there was such a crash that it was just unbearable. Like it was weeks of being lethargic and it's not being motivated. I sat in the same chair in my living room, just rocked back and forth for about 2 weeks, and stared at the wall, just questioned life, you know, like just almost no emotions whatsoever. Like the inability to conjure up sadness, happiness, nothing. Like I think I've experienced what a lot of people would call being fried. I think through the use of like SSRIs or different types of antidepressants that can affect these same systems, the serotonin system, you can, you know, LSD may be able to temporarily cause this hangover effect that's similar to that, but I think that's the effect that a lot of people who've damaged themselves with SSRIs and different serotonin psychiatric medicines that I think that's the effect they're stuck in sometimes. That NPC feeling where just somebody's able to walk to work and do their job and whatever, but they're just like a processing plant now. Like they can't.
So do you disagree with pharmacological drugs to alleviate kind of like things like depression and